Hello everyone, this is chapter 1 of Sons and Lovers Summary. The chapter begins by describing Bestwood, a mining village. Earlier, the miners lived in Hellrow, a group of old, thatched cottages beside a brook. The miners worked in small gin pits where donkeys were used to bring coal to the surface. These mines were old and small, existing even since the time of Charles II. Bestwood was originally a mixture of small coal mines, farms, miners' cottages, homes of stockingers. Then industrialization changed everything. Large companies such as Cartson, Waite and Co. began developing large coal mines in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. The old small mines were replaced by bigger industrial mines and a railway connected the various mining areas. There were eventually 6 major mines, making the countryside increasingly industrial. Because many miners were needed, Cartson, Waite and Co. built housing for them. They built the squares on the hillside, the bottoms in the valley where Hellrow had stood. The bottoms had 6 blocks of houses arranged in 2 rows. From the outside, the houses looked quite respectable. They had little gardens, flowers, neat windows, porches, hedges, dormer windows, but this appearance was misleading. The actual living rooms were the kitchens at the back, facing dirty back gardens and ash pits. Between the houses was an alley where children played, women gossiped, and men smoked. So the bottoms were well built but unpleasant to actually live in. This is an important contrast between appearance and reality. Mrs. Morrill doesn't want to move there because the bottoms are already becoming old and dirty. But she has no better choice. She gets an end house, which gives her only one neighbor, an extra strip of garden, slightly higher social status. Her rent is 5 shillings and 6 pence compared with 5 shillings for the middle houses. But this small privilege doesn't make her happy. She is 31, has been married for 8 years, and is pregnant with her third child. She is physically delicate, but mentally strong and determined. She is also somewhat uncomfortable around the bottoms women because she doesn't feel completely at home among them. Only 3 weeks after moving in, the local wakes, meaning a fair, begins. Morrill immediately goes off to enjoy it because he loves such celebrations. The children are excited too. William is 7, energetic, fair-haired and freckled. He runs off to the fairground early in the morning. Annie is 5 and wants to go too. Mrs. Morrill doesn't know her neighbors well enough to leave Annie with anyone, so she promises to take her later. This already shows that Mrs. Morrill is responsible for the children, while Mr. Morrill goes off to enjoy himself. William comes home at 12:30, desperate to eat because he thinks the fair starts at 1:30. Mrs. Morrill tells him to wait for lunch. He becomes impatient and worried that he will miss the beginning. During lunch, he suddenly hears the merry-go-round and a horn from the fair. He immediately jumps up because he is so excited. Mrs. Morrill reminds him that he hasn't taken his 2 pence, which he needs for the fair. He runs back for it and leaves. Annie starts crying because she wants to go too. Later, Mrs. Morrill takes her to the fair. The countryside around them is peaceful with fields, cattle, and warm evening air. But the fair itself is noisy and chaotic. There are merry-go-rounds, organs, pistol shots, rattles, shouting, peep shows. Mrs. Morrill doesn't enjoy this kind of entertainment. William, however, is fascinated. She sees him looking excitedly at pictures of Lion Wallace, a famous lion that had attacked and injured people. This shows William's adventurous and curious nature. William becomes extremely excited when he realizes his mother has come. He wants to show her everything. This is where we begin to see the strong bond between William and Mrs. Morrill. William comes back excitedly from the fair and shows his mother 2 pretty egg cups decorated with pink moss roses. He won them by playing a marble game, spending his precious 2 pence. He specifically chose these because he wanted them for his mother. Mrs. Morrill understands this and is pleased. Important, this shows that William already has a strong emotional attachment to his mother and wants to make her happy. William asks Mrs. Morrill to carry the egg cups because he is afraid of breaking them. He then takes her around the fair and shows her everything. At the peep show, Mrs. Morrill explains the pictures to him like a story. William listens as if spellbound. He stays close to her because he is extremely proud of her. He thinks she looks like a lady, especially in her black bonnet and cloak. So William doesn't just love his mother, he admires and idolizes her. After some time, Mrs. Morrill gets tired and decides to leave with Annie. William is upset because he wants to stay. He watches his mother walk away and feels deeply hurt, but he still cannot bring himself to leave the fair. This shows a small conflict in William. He loves his mother deeply, but he is also fascinated by the outside world and its excitement. Once she leaves the fair, the mood changes completely. Mrs. Morrill thinks about her life. She is pregnant with her third child and doesn't want another baby because she already struggles with poverty and responsibility. She feels that there is nothing waiting for her except years of endurance until her children grow up. She thinks her husband is drinking in a pub and feels she despised him and was tied to him. This is very important. She doesn't respect Mr. Morrill, but she is trapped in the marriage. She feels that if William and Annie didn't exist, she would be completely tired of her life. Mrs. Morrill goes into the garden because she feels suffocated inside the house. The beautiful evening and flowers temporarily comfort her, but they also make her aware of how unhappy she is. The peaceful countryside contrasts with the ugly reality of her life. Then she sees drunk men returning from the fair. One drunken man crashes into a stile and begins swearing. This reinforces her disgust with the rough, drunken world around her, especially because it reminds her of Mr. Morrill. Mrs. Morrill remembers her younger life at Sheerness. 10 years earlier, she had been a young woman who could run freely along the breakwater. Now she is heavily pregnant and living in the bottoms. She wonders whether she is even the same person anymore. She feels that marriage, poverty, pregnancy, and motherhood have swallowed up her individual identity. She thinks, what have I to do with all this? She feels that life has simply carried her along without considering what she actually wanted. Her line, I wait and what I wait for can never come, shows that she once hoped for something better from life, but now believes that it will never happen. Despite all these thoughts, Mrs. Morrill goes back inside and continues working. She cleans the kitchen, prepares the fire, gets the washing ready, sews, and she keeps thinking about how to make the best of her situation for her children's sake. This is important. Her children are what keep her going. At 11:30, Mr. Morrill returns from the pub. His red, shiny face and nodding head show that he is drunk. He is very happy with himself because he has earned £50 while helping at the Moon and Stars pub. Mrs. Morrill suspects that he has spent the rest of his money on beer. He denies it. Then, in a softer mood, he gives her brandy snap or gingerbread and brings a coconut for the children. So, Morrill isn't completely uncaring. He does bring little gifts home, but his drinking and irresponsibility overshadow these gestures. Morrill excitedly tells her how he got the coconut from his friend Bill Hodgkinson. He keeps talking about how nice Bill is. Mrs. Morrill, already exhausted, has no patience for his drunken storytelling. She tells him a man will part with anything so long as he's drunk and you are drunk along with him. Morrill gets offended and calls her a rude name. This shows how poor their communication and marriage have become. Morrill is enjoying his night while Mrs. Morrill is emotionally and physically exhausted. And Gertrude Morrill, whose maiden name is Gertrude Coppert, comes from a respectable family. Her family's finances suffered when many lace manufacturers in Nottingham went bankrupt. Her father, George Coppert, is an engineer and a proud, handsome, strict man. He values integrity above everything. Gertrude gets her small, delicate appearance from her mother, proud, stubborn, and strong personality from the Copperts. She loves her gentle, humorous mother, but dislikes her father's overbearing treatment of her. Gertrude remembers her childhood at Sheerness, especially running along the breakwater, visiting the dockyard, being admired by men there, helping an older woman at the private school. These memories show that her life was once much freer and more fulfilling than her present life in the bottoms. At 19, Gertrude becomes close to John Field, an educated young man from a well-to-do family. They walk home from chapel together, and she remembers one beautiful September afternoon when they sat under a vine. John admires her hair, describing it as copper and gold, which makes her secretly happy. John wants to become a preacher, but his father wants him to enter business. Gertrude strongly encourages him to follow his dream. She says, if I were a man, nothing would stop me. This shows her ambition and belief that women have fewer freedoms than men. John says being a man isn't everything, but Gertrude later learns through her marriage that simply being a man certainly doesn't make someone better or happier. At 20, Gertrude leaves Sheerness because of poor health. John's father later becomes bankrupt and John becomes a teacher. 2 years later, Gertrude finds out that he has married his landlady, a 40-year-old widow with property. She realizes that John was not the ideal man she once imagined. However, she keeps the Bible he gave her and preserves his memory for the rest of her life. She doesn't speak about him for 35 years. The Bible therefore represents her lost youth and the love she once hoped for. At 23, Gertrude meets Walter Morrill, who is 27, at a Christmas party. He is completely different from the men she has known. Morrill is handsome and physically strong, black-haired and bearded, energetic and cheerful, funny and very sociable, full of warmth and physical vitality. His humor is warm and playful, unlike her father's sharp intellectual humor. Gertrude is fascinated because she has never met anyone like him. Gertrude is intellectual, religious, serious, thoughtful, interested in philosophy, politics, and religion, reserved and puritanical. Morrill is physical, spontaneous, playful, emotional, full of energy, uninterested in intellectual manners. She enjoys ideas and serious conversations. He enjoys life as a physical, immediate experience. Morrill's sensuous flame of life fascinates Gertrude. She has a controlled, disciplined life, while Morrill seems naturally full of movement, warmth, and pleasure. So, although they are opposites, that difference attracts her. To Morrill, Gertrude is a mysterious, refined lady. He is fascinated by her educated manner, southern accent, and pure English. Morrill dances naturally and joyfully. Gertrude, being very puritanical, doesn't dance and has never even learned the Roger de Coverley, a traditional English dance. Morrill asks her to dance with him, but she refuses. Instead, he sits beside her. She tells him he should go and dance since he invited her, but he says he doesn't care about that dance anymore. They tease each other playfully. Morrill says she has quickly humbled him. Gertrude jokes that he doesn't look very humbled. This shows their early attraction and chemistry.